Hello ladies and gents, it's EZScape, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the top 10 closest races that have happened at Games Done Quick. Games Done Quick is a charity marathon that runs twice a year and has raised over $1 million each marathon since 2014. Most anticipated runs each year at the event would have to be the races. Races are not only extremely hyped to watch, but are also fascinating to see how top level players run their game and just how costly a single mistake can be. In this video, we'll be seeing what happens when top level speedrunners are so evenly matched that they are within seconds of each other. I hope you all enjoy. The first run on this list would be the 4-player Super Mario Sunshine race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2017. This run utilizes extreme precise movement options and skips, and is often referred to as one of the best platformers ever made, which makes it no surprise that this is one of the most speedrun games there are. In this run there are 4 big skips, and depending on which runner is able to execute all of them will determine who will be the leaders in the race. In this race, the first skip is Gelato Skip. Gelato Skip is used in the first level of Gelato Beach and is used to get the 8th Shine Sprite in the level. Once you collect that Shine Sprite, you can enter any level, which is very important in any percent.
Flips us into the roof.
Strongman gets the first prize.
Trey
gets the
first
first
prize.
prize.
Let's go.
Nice. We got ourselves a race.
All right.
Every runner managed to get the skip first try, but it doesn't end there. Throughout the race, every single runner was nailing each skip.
Yeah,
Yoshi skip,
much easier and safer to do in a run thanks to him. So,
And he gets it.
nice.
There's it.
Honey skip,
It'll skip the cutscene. They'll spawn right in front of Pinna without any cutscene.
Looks like Bouncy got it.
Bounceyboy,
We'll
the
see.
god of
He's
honey
good.
skip. Panga gets
the
it
honey
too.
skip master.
an early Yoshi go round.
Until we have Yoshi with this, so they just
Exactly.
clip across the big invisible barrier
Nice.
and get in there.
It's not often in a race that you see all runners get each major skip first try. For a majority of the race, Bounceyboy is leading up until he gets to the Chucksters. In this part, he's going to be trying to get on an early cycle with the Chucksters that has a 1 in 5 chance to save roughly 20 seconds in the run, which would make his first place position even more dominating.
If he gets up there really quickly
If he gets lucky.
and gets
He
super
may,
lucky, he can save 20 seconds, 25 seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Panga getting Yoshi.
I think he's got it.
Oh,
He's got the
yeah.
roof cycle.
He just has to get this. And
Oh no!
Unfortunately, he falls a bit short, putting Panga in the lead. The race is extremely close, and Bouncy and Panga keep going back and forth. One moment Panga will just miss a ledge and Bouncy jumps out in front, but then you see the brilliant execution from Panga while collecting red coins, and there he is back in first again. It's up until Rico 4 that Panga misses a ledge, putting Bouncy right back in his dominant lead.
That was really hard in the speedrun.
oh man.
It's not until Noki 6 where things get interesting. Bouncy attempts to go for a quicker, but much more difficult cycle, and well, I'll just let the clip speak for itself.
The secret.
So there's a couple different like cycles you can make here. There's green cycle and blue cycle. A green cycle is really difficult to pull off.
And normally for a marathon run, you play it safe just because it's the end of the run.
And
But
And
he's going
he
for
gets
it
it.
anyway.
Wow.
Oh my
wow.
goodness!
Oh
Oh man.
It's not.
But he's not
oh,
dead.
He's not
He's
dead. He
dead.
doesn't die. Do you
Man.
believe this?
Oh god.
Coming back up.
All right. He's still got the lead. He's gonna.
Yellow
All right, all right.
yellow side.
Oh no, Bouncy! Clutches out again! What a ledge!
Bouncy does manage to save himself twice, but this is also giving the other runners a chance to catch up. It comes down to the final boss fight against Bowser with Bounceyboy in the lead, followed by Trey who is roughly 12 seconds behind. And with no mistakes, Bouncy finishes the race with a 1:17.55, with Trey finishing behind him by 16 seconds and Panga by 26 seconds. A great way to finish what was by far the most exciting live Super Mario Sunshine race ever. The next one on this list is the Ducktales race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2017. This is a pretty short speedrun, so speedrunners are going to be trying to do every minor optimization possible to advance a few frames ahead. In the first level, you can do a pretty big skip by taking damage from the nearby space duck and walking into the corner of the barrier to go down to the lower level. Andy accidentally gets hit by an enemy which slows him down, enough that the space duck lands earlier than expected, costing him time, putting Gyarados in the lead. In the next level, the runners will have to make a precise jump to spawn Launchpad on his helicopter, then jump to and from the rope on it quickly to make it across the gap. Gyarados gets a questionable spawn, so he decides to wait and jump off an enemy. This costs him enough frames to put Andy in the lead. Gyarados makes up a bit of time getting good boss RNG on this level though, and then Andy misses a boss hit, putting Gyarados back in the lead. but the race is so close that they are basically playing in the same frame, and even something simple like item pickups keeps Gyarados in the lead. It comes down to the last boss fight with Gyarados only a few frames ahead. They both get good RNG by having the boss spawn on the right side on his third spawn, but after going off the bat, Andy gets a higher jump, making him start climbing up the rope in the lead.
That might be it. Andy is higher up on the screen. He's going to start on this vine sooner, and as long as he doesn't make a mistake, that's going to make the difference. And it does! What a race! Unbelievable! It all came down to that final task bat.
The next run on this list is the Shovel Knight race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2017. Shovel Knight is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, which was inspired by older Nintendo platformers, which will also be featured in this video. The first little trick in this speedrun is to bait out this dragon so it will blow bubbles at you. You can bounce off these bubbles to activate a screen wrap and save 4 seconds getting to the next screen. Smoggy is able to get the trick over Koopas, putting him in the lead. He keeps up this lead until he reaches the 4th stage boss, Treasure Knight. Smoggy makes a few errors during the battle, making him touch Treasure Knight's body, which eventually kills him. This would have given Koopas a perfect opportunity to catch up had he also not died during Smoggy's fight. There is still a pretty big gap between the runners going into the Flying Machine stage, but unfortunately Smoggy gets jumped by some of the hover meanies and then dies again due to some difficult platforming.
Just moving, yeah.
Koopas takes the lead and heads into the boss battle against Propeller Knight. Just as Koopas gets the quick kill, Smoggy prepares to start his boss battle. Unfortunately, during the cheering after Koopa's kill, he missed an audio cue and dies. Koopas pulls forward with a bigger lead. Coming into the boss battle versus Black Knight in the Tower of Fate, Smoggy's made up a lot of time. Koopas dies during the boss battle, putting him 6 seconds behind Smoggy. The runners quickly finish the boss battle and are neck and neck. A bit later, both runners head into the final boss rush. The bosses come out in a random order, so it's difficult to see who exactly is in the lead. They both finish super close and are only 3 seconds apart. It's down to the final boss battle.
Situation's going on right now. And Smoggy's time is almost up.
Time.
Now! And we got Munksha following up very closely with time.
Wow, good job. Great job.
The next run on this list is a 4-player 100% Super Metroid race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2017. Super Metroid is one of the most popular runs towards the end of each GDQ, featuring the most intense bid war of the event called the Fate of the Animals. In the final part of the game, you must decide whether to save the animals that helped you throughout the game or kill them. Since the charities GDQ supports are all about saving lives, it makes sense to save the animals, but since GDQ is also a speedrunning event and killing the animals is quicker, it also makes sense to kill the animals. For this reason, it makes for a crazy bid war with both sides going back and forth. During AGDQ 2017, this bid war raised almost $800,000 alone. The first thing to mention in this race is that Zeus takes a different route than the other runners by grabbing some power bombs and a missile pack in Red Brinstar, rather than doing it later like the other runners. There really isn't any time save in doing so, just runner preference. The race is going pretty smoothly with no runner far behind from the next until the first boss fight versus Phantoon. Ivan makes a few mistakes with his attacks and misses, making Phantoon go into phases where he can't be hurt. This extends the boss fight, forcing Ivan to play it safe in order not to die and waste even more time. He does eventually kill him, but by then, all of the other runners are way in the lead. A little bit later into the run, you can see Behemoth in the lead, with Zoast and then Wild Anaconda right behind him. Since Zoast did take a different route, and he's keeping pace with Behemoth, this means he's technically in the lead. The rest of the race stays pretty even until the next boss fight against Dragon. Behemoth makes a mistake in thinking he doesn't do enough damage to the boss, so he goes into backup strats to deal with it. While attempting to set up the backup strats, Dragon started swooping, and when Behemoth did eventually try to spark him, he got grabbed, which wasted more time putting Zoast in the lead. The rest of the race is neck and neck with Zoast leading and Behemoth right behind. It comes down to the final escape sequence. The runners save the animals and race through the rest of the game. Behemoth makes back some ground, but because of getting bad boss fights with both Phantoon and Dragon, while Zoast had great boss battles with both, as well as getting double fast patterns on Phantoon, he finishes 8 seconds behind Zoast.
No.
Oh, no.
There we go.
Time on Behemoth.
Overall a great race, and even more impressive that there wasn't a single death from any runner. The next run on this list is a 3-player Mega Man X8 race from Summer Games Done Quick 2015. Mega Man X8 is the last game in the Mega Man X series. The Mega Man X series contains similar mechanics from original Mega Man games, which is obviously where it got its inspiration from, but also adds new elements such as dashing and wall jumping. In this race there are 2 different routes the runners use, the X route and the Zero route. In the X route you get 2 armor parts right away, which allows you to shoot bigger, making boss fights a lot quicker, but you have to go back through the intro. Most of the community agrees that the Zero route is faster, but when watching this race it's pretty hard to tell. In the very beginning, the speedrunner P&D, who's doing the X route, accidentally dies early in the run, meaning he's going to have to make almost half a level back in time. There really isn't too much that happens for the rest of the race, and the other 2 runners stay neck and neck. It comes down to the final boss fight. Mr. Cab is slightly in the lead and starts the boss fight first, with Seto Ryu right behind him. Both runners perform almost equally as well, and Mr. Cab closes out the boss fight 6 seconds ahead of Seto Ryu. Had P&D not died in the beginning of the race, it would have been much closer, and he potentially may have won the race. Also, as a fun fact, every runner in this race also ended up getting their personal best. The next one on this list is the 4-player Batman the Video Game race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2016. In this run, runners are going to be managing their weapons and health closely because the only way to replenish them is by item drops and killing bosses. This is crucial for getting a good time because using the weapons will allow the runners to keep going at a fast pace, and there are certain parts in which you'll need to take damage, so if your health is low, you might be in a bad spot. In this race, Infested Rich has a pretty dominant lead over everyone else. Level by level, he makes little mistakes and plays it safe when he needs to, which keeps him in the lead. Meanwhile, Just Defend and Dxtr are right behind him ready to make their move. It seems like Rich has this in the bag until he makes a fatal error during a fight with the second to last boss, Firebug, which kills him. While remaining in the lead, Defend and Dxtr enter Firebug just after Rich restarts it. It's anyone's game. By the end of the fight, Just Defend takes the lead from Rich, but he and Dxtr aren't far behind. Next we head into the final boss fight against Joker. Just Defend makes an error during the Joker fight, putting Rich and Dxtr side by side for the lead. Both of them execute the boss fight great, but with the advantage of entering the fight early, Rich beats it before Dxtr, who finishes a second later. Unfortunately, Just Defend dies just before finishing a second or 2 behind Dxtr and gets to 11:24 and then bad breaks with 11:54. The next one on this list is the Plock race from Summer Games Done Quick 2013. This game is more of a traditional platformer where you play as the character Plock who has to save his island from the flea invasion. The speedrun for this game involves precise platforming, as well as hitting specific fruit in certain levels to play bonus stages which allow you to skip through multiple levels and bosses at a time. These bonus stages are very hard and add another layer of difficulty to the run. The race is pretty close throughout the start, with Countdown 42 leading over Mecha Richter. This lead is taken by Richter about 10 minutes into the run by getting a game over before Countdown. The reason for getting the game over is that if you pick up a Plock letter in the stage and then game over, the game thinks you've already completed that stage. This is because the other way to get Plock letters is by beating the stage without dying. The game most likely doesn't know the difference between the two, and assumes that if you have the letter, then you've beaten the stage. This lead doesn't last long as Richter dies shortly after during a boss fight. This death puts Countdown far in the lead. So far that even with Countdown dying later on attempting a damage boost, Richter is still about a minute behind. Later on, Countdown dies again while trying to hop on a moving platform, and then out of nowhere Richter not only manages to catch up, but takes the lead by 3 seconds conveniently right before the final boss, the Flea Queen. As long as Richter doesn't mess up, this race is in the bag.
I am obviously not going to risk it. Oh my god, Mecha!
Oh my gosh.
There you go, good game.
Time. 37:08.
And?
Time.
37:11.
And as expected, little to no mistakes on the final boss from each runner, and Richter finishes 3 seconds over Countdown. The next run on this list is a Ninja Gaiden relay race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2015. In this relay race, there are 2 teams of 3 people, and once one speedrunner finishes a game, they pass off and run the next game in the series. So this is a race of Ninja Gaiden 1 through 3. In Ninja Gaiden 1, a speedrun is heavily reliant on movement and platforming, including precise wall jumps and damage boosts. This game is arguably more reliant on these factors because there's a move you can get called Spin Slash, and it kills most of the bosses in one hit, so most time save is from outside of the boss fights. In this race, Ohon, who is part of Team Kappa, leads the race for the entirety of the first game in front of Dxtr, who is in Team Franker Z. This is until the final boss fight, which is where Dxtr will have the chance to catch up because of his quick mashing skills. Unfortunately, during the second phase of the boss fight, he gets hit by the boss's tail, which does a lot of damage. He decides to play it safe and take out the tail first, and then the boss. Meanwhile, Gus of Team Kappa is starting up the second game 14 seconds in the lead. The big differences between Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 is that you now no longer have Spin Slash, so boss fights won't be nearly as quick, but you do have access to Shadow Clones, which are a close second best. Also, certain stages now have hazards like wind, which makes platforming a bit more difficult. Jimmy of Team Franker Z starts making back time stage after stage, shaving off a few seconds each time over Team Kappa to the point he's right behind him. But just as it seems that he's caught up, he ends up dying. This may waste some time, but it certainly doesn't slow down his pace as we see him execute a wall clip over Team Kappa, making him up 10 seconds, and then later on leads the race going into the boss fight. At the end of the boss fight, Team Franker Z is ahead of Team Kappa by 7 seconds. It's now time for Game 3. Game 3 is by far the most difficult Ninja Gaiden game, and this is mainly because it isn't as broken as the other two. There's no wall clips or overpowered weapons, and you take far more damage and receive less health drops, meaning mistakes are almost detrimental. Infested Rich takes a hit early on in the third stage, resulting in a death, but luckily it was done early on, which means he will have a chance to catch up later. Coming into the stage 5 boss, Rich has made up a lot of time and enters shortly after Crack Attack. He manages to get the quick kill and finishes a few frames before a Crack Attack.
And once again we're dead even going into the next act.
The runners are right next to each other going into the boss rush, only being a second apart. After the first two bosses in the boss rush, Crack Attack keeps his 1 second lead. It's time to see who can finish the boss first.
So we'll see this come down to the wire here, guys.
16 hits away. Who's going to get there first?
And Rich with the kill first.
Wow!
Team Franker takes it by 1 second, less than a second. This has been an incredible race here at AGDQ 2015.
Even though the announcer says that Rich gets the kill first, Crack Attack is the one who gets it, and Team Franker Z takes the win. The next run on this list is the Mega Man 4 race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2015. The original Mega Man, also known as Rockman games, are some of the most difficult platformers to have ever been made. This is due to its precise movement and tight controls. In this run, the runners start off with different routes, just like how in the Super Metroid race with Zoast. Chelny starts this race with Pharaoh Man, and Almond City starts with Bright Man. The Pharaoh Man route is about 3 seconds faster. At about 10 minutes in the race, the routes converge, and Chelny is ahead by 9 seconds. For the rest of the race, the biggest time difference between the runners at a given moment is only 9 seconds. The run was literally so close throughout that there really wasn't anything else to point out until the final boss fight. Almond worked his way back up from the 9 second deficit from earlier in the race and is actually in the lead by a little bit going into the boss fight.
Almond a little bit low on Pharaoh, but I think he has just enough to finish this.
Oh! What a
Chelny
race.
takes it.
Oh my!
Wow.
Ladies
Oh
and
my
gentlemen,
goodness.
Almond City and Chelny.
And just before Almond finishes the kill, Chelny clutches out just before him with only a 1 second time difference between them. If I had ranked these runs by how close they were throughout the race, rather than just at the ending, this one definitely would have taken first place. Okay guys, and before I show you the first spot, I have a few honorable mentions to go over first. The first is a 602-star Super Mario race between 360 Charism and Valu 111 in the summer of 2016. This was the 5th installment of the biannual event which collects every star and shine in Super Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, and Galaxy 2, which is an over 20-hour run. 360 Charism didn't think he had a chance to win the race until he noticed Valu had been losing time on his final stars due to fatigue. It came super close, but Valu finished with a time of 21 hours, 40 minutes, and 16 seconds, which is recorded as 12 seconds faster than Charism's time. This race wasn't included in the list since I was only going over races at Games Done Quick, but I decided that it was definitely worth featuring. The next honorable mention is a blindfolded Mike Tyson's Punch-Out speedrun from Awesome Games Done Quick 2016. This race was a great display of skill for both runners, but the most insane part of it was just how close they were from each other until the Mike Tyson fight. Zallard ended up winning a little bit over a minute before Sinister, but considering this was a blindfolded race, I would say that's pretty close. Also, had Sinister not landed a frame perfect punch right at the very end, he probably would have lost the run altogether. Alright guys, for the last run on this list is the Super Mario Kart race from Awesome Games Done Quick 2016. In this run, runners are going to be hoping to get mushrooms and feathers on different tracks in hopes to skip large portions of different tracks, as well as executing numerous different tricks to keep their speed. Both runners are pretty close towards the beginning of the race, with Neo slightly in the lead. KVD attempts to do a mushroom trick called the double bounce in Ghost Valley 1 to potentially take the lead, but just barely misses it, putting him slightly more behind Neo. Neo then in the next race performs a long boost shortcut, allowing him to pull even further in the lead. The race stays pretty even until KVD pulls off a mushroom skip in Donut Plains 2, and then in Bowser Castle 2, Neo misses a skip, but goes back to try it again with a long boost shortcut and gets it. This puts the two runners only a few seconds apart. KVD takes a bit of a lead, and Neo gets lucky on Donut Plains 3 by getting a mushroom, and he's able to use it for a skip to save 10 seconds off of KVD. It's down to the last two races. At the end of the second to last race, KVD makes a mistake and doesn't exit the race on the player 1 controller, which will exit you out of the game quicker and loses 8 seconds, and then falls off almost 20 seconds away from the finish. Neo catches up and it's race to the finish.
Really? Now, I did tell these guys they could give up and try to get 5 more items again, but I think they want to compete and win. This is going to come down to the wire. Oh. And time!
You won it, I think. Congrats!
Neo finishes the race ahead by 5 whole frames, and because KVD started his run 7 frames earlier, this means that there was only 12 frames between the two runners at the very end of the race. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like because it doesn't take a lot of time to do, and it's the best way to show support. For this video, I could have just showed the endings of the races and talked about how close they were, but I wanted to go more in depth of what happened during the races that made them so close. This is something I've never really seen someone do in a top 10, but it sounded really interesting to me, so I hope you guys enjoyed me going a bit more in depth. I know a lot of you are going to check out some of these races after watching this video, so I left a paste bin at the very bottom of the description of all the links to the runs in order of entertainment value. Also, make sure you follow Games Done Quick on Twitch and visit gamesdonequick.com for more information about the event. That's all I have to say, guys. Subscribe for more speedrunning related content, and I hope you have a beautiful life.
I don't know ya, but I can see the signs. I can show ya.